So last week we took a look at how to get ChatGPT's Vision API to play ball with PDFs. This week we're going to take it a step further and actually make it a little bit more useful beyond the generation of a simple summary or something like that. So we're going to tackle two of the most difficult challenges that humanity has faced when it comes to PDFs. Number one, generating tables of contents, TOCs. Number two is splitting scanned PDFs where the human who was doing the scanning was really bored and took 100 different documents, scanned them all in. There's one PDF that contains 100 pages, and good luck to anybody trying to find any kind of information from that chunky boy of a PDF. So we're going to see if we can resolve these things. If you're new here, my name is Alex. Welcome to the channel. This is what we do. We basically do a lot of content when it comes to using automation and make. If you haven't done so already, do subscribe to the channel now. Without any further ado, let's give this a shot. Okay, so in our typical fashion, we're gonna first take a look at how the system works. I'm not gonna explain really how to set up the splitting of the PDF into individual JPEGs and getting it to process. Watch that previous video from last week. But what I am going to do, I'm going to show you what happens when we actually need to create table of contents and how the dynamic clever splitting thing happens. So without any further ado, let's take a look at the document that we're going to be looking into today. And this is just a document that I found on one of the US government websites. Basically, it's like a public notice from 2015, something about the public water systems. But the most interesting thing about this is the fact that it's been scanned in. So it's a total of about 8 pages. And the first page, and I think up to the third page, that's the letter, right, that they included in that document, in that scan. Then there is a environmental sample collection form, basically a form. And then finally we have sample collection instructions, which is also labeled very nicely, very clearly over here, page 1 of 4. So it's like some instructions basically, right? Let's begin the whole process. So I'm going to press process via ChatGPT Vision, and now the process will begin. So what it's going to do now, it's not going to necessarily split the PDF, I've already done that, but it's going to process and generate a summary of the text. So it's processing now, page 1 out of 8. Let's give this a second to process. A few moments later. And the first thing that we should see now is the aggregated summary text. There we go. That should be quite long, like very long, and it is. Very long, which is great because it gives more than enough data to our process that generates the table of contents. There we go. Excellent. And that should also immediately attempt to split the PDF by chapter. And it has done that. So yeah, that's basically how the system works. Now let's take a closer look at what it actually printed and how we can manipulate it a bit more. Okay, so welcome back. Let's take a look at the table of contents first. I previously explained what the big PDF contained. Let's see what the table of contents has produced. So, okay, it has broken it down into like chapters, but generally speaking, this is good enough. I've tried it on a few other documents, and I would say that 95% of the time, it generates a decent table of contents, especially like with some of these other documents that deal with some real estate transactions. It really takes 15 pages and creates like 3 or 4 chapters very, very, very nicely. Now, split PDF by chapter. Again, it has done a fairly decent job, but you see, it has created a great split here. PDF public, just the sample collection instructions, that's its own thing, because it realized that there is page 3 out of 4 and just done a very nice split there. Then there is the only thing for the like 1-page environmental sample collection form, which is excellent. But as you can see, it has not split the first 3 pages accurately because there's nothing on them. So that's why we can add some special instructions, and we can just say first 3 pages are part of the same letter, split them separately, just like that. And what we can do, we can just clear this split PDF by chapter, and we can just rerun this thing, and it should do a much better job now in terms of splitting the PDF. Actually, let's do this one more time. Do not split the first 3 pages. And let's just say they are part of the same letter. Let's do that again. Excellent. There you go. So now you can see that the initial letter is its own thing, the public water mass mailing is its own thing, and the instructions are their own thing. Having said that, let's take a look at what's at play here in terms of the database design. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about the automation that's at hand. If you want to get a hold of this automation, I've included a link down below in the description where you can get this. You don't have to, because you can probably follow along with my video, but yeah, if you want it, it's down there. Let's take a look now at the DB design and automation. All right, in terms of the DB design, there's really not much going on. I kind of understand there's like 22 hidden fields, but they are a little bit irrelevant. They're from previous demos, previous videos that I've done. But if you want to follow along with this particular part, I think these are the fields that you really need. We're not going to go into any other tables. It's just one thing, standalone. This is all you need. And what you need is just, a name for the document, the PDF attachment, where you can just attach that big PDF that you got on your hands. Then a little trigger, just a little checkbox for process via ChatGPT Vision, a little vision summary where we just know what's going on, that something's happening. Then we need a long text field for the aggregated text summary. Essentially, this is where Vision really tells us what it's seeing, and it's being very, very, very descriptive in what it's seeing page by page. Then we have a table of contents. That's where it prints the table of contents, and it's kind of neat. Then we have special instructions. This is needed for cases where we can see that it hasn't really done a perfect split. Yeah, this is kind of like us messing with it. You can do a lot of things with this. That's why we need it there. And also, finally, we have a place where we have a split PDF by chapter. This is where it basically splits things. Maybe not ChatGPT specifically, but ChatGPT in conjunction with other services, as we'll see in a sec. Then we have the PDF to image, which you kind of need from the previous video. If you saw that, this is where we print the individual pages in JPEGs into this little spot. And then also we have our little flag PDF to image conversion, just a simple text where we just basically, make sure that the system doesn't run again and again generating those PDF images, because that's an expensive exercise. You only want to do that once. That's it in terms of database design. Let's take a look at our automation. First of all, you need a trigger. If you've been following the channel for a while, thank you. Secondly, you probably know that I like to trigger my automations pretty much the same way every single time. This time is no exception. So when a record matches conditions, the condition is that in the documents table, when processed via ChatGPT Vision is checked, then we run our favorite script. We make sure that the script looks exactly like this. The thing you need to change is this little webhook. So make sure that you replace this webhook with your own, the one that make.com generates for you. Don't forget to add a record ID over here. And also don't forget to map the value of the Airtable record as I've done right here. But that's it. When you're done, finish editing, turn this on, and you've sorted your trigger. Now, let's take a look at the automation itself. So this first part over here, let me just break this down for you. This first part, this section, this is what we discussed in the previous video. Today, we're going to discuss this little part. The first part generates the table of contents, and the second part generates the split, the dynamic, clever, AI-assisted split of the document into its groups, parts, call it whatever. Let's talk about these two. So as soon as the process triggers, we land over here in the webhook and we just get our record ID. Then we pass that record ID into a get a record module where we essentially get that document, right? Then we update that document very quickly just to say that, hey, something's happening. And this is where we print starting up, now function rather, into ChatGPT Vision summary, so that we basically know that something's going on, and it basically prints this little tag over here. We just know that something started, right? That make isn't completely broken. Then we have a router, essentially. In this case, what I'm doing is I'm checking for the table of contents, because it's a chicken egg situation. You can't have a table of contents, for instance, if you don't have this top part, which is the long description, the aggregated summary text. So over here in my first path, I've said that aggregated summary text does not exist. If it doesn't exist, it then goes to this router and it checks further, right? Okay, it doesn't exist because PDF to image conversion complete doesn't exist. In other words, I have to actually go to the first step of anything, which is splitting that PDF into individual JPEGs. If I've already done that, it will immediately go down this path. Or if I'm running the PDF for the very first time, it will take this path, then it will go down here, which is where it generates the aggregated text. Then, having said that, if the table of contents does not exist, even after this process is finished, it will jump in here, and obviously, because you're, let's say, running the process for the very first time, it will choose to go down this path. Now, it's important to include this in your automation. You see, I'm fetching the document again, because if I was to not include this particular module and mapped into all my subsequent modules data from this original one, if I've never run it before, well, there's no data here. It only appeared over there when I'm updating my document with all of that data that I've just aggregated, right? So in this case, fetch that document again, almost like receiving a pass from here to there. And you see I'm doing this again. I'm fetching that document one more time, because let's say I have my full aggregated summary, but I don't have a table of contents and I don't have my split by chapters. In that case, I need to first create my table of contents and then do my split. So moving on, what we have here is we have our little filter. Table of contents does not exist. I've also included a little trim because sometimes it just prints a space, although there's nothing in that field. Don't know why. So trim, table of contents does not exist. Then we ask ChatGPT. I'm using ChatGPT-4 Turbo. It's the one with 120 something thousand tokens. So yeah, I'm just basically telling it that you're a font editor, proofreader with 50 years of experience, generating a table of contents, yada, yada, yada. And then I also have my content where I'm giving it the aggregated summary text, the expected response format, which you can of course play around with yourself, and then the task where I'm basically telling it to analyze a document and format and all of that. So yeah, from there, I'm basically just updating the document with its generated table of contents. Then, in terms of split PDF, again, this looks a little bit complicated, but it actually isn't. All I'm doing is I'm fetching the document again over here. Then I'm passing prompt to generate a list, right? So the prompt looks something like this. You are a savant editor, proofreader, blah, 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 blah. And I've actually copy-pasted it from the previous prompt. Then we have the individual page details, any special instructions, expected output format, page ranges, some details on the expected output format, the tasks. And what I'm doing next is very similar to this part over here, only that I'm not converting anything into a JPEG, right? So I'm basically doing exactly the same thing, convert API, upload a file, and this is the file that I get from module 73, where I'm basically mapping the original, the big PDF attachment into this HTTP module. Then we have the convert API, which basically just uploading that big PDF into convert API. Then finally, we're doing yet another split, but this time we're introducing the split by custom range. And I'm also replacing basically I'm feeding the response that I got from ChatGPT, which kind of looks like this. Let me show you. Here we go. Looks like this. because it contains the ranges of the pages that we want to split by. And we finally just essentially map that in. I'm also using a little bit of a replace here, but essentially any spaces, because sometimes it just creates spaces after the comma. We don't want to have that. So any space that it sees, it will just replace it with an empty string. And finally, the file ID that I've just uploaded over here in module 74. That's it. Nothing else goes into this custom call. And once we get the response back, we map the files in and we simply aggregate the URL and the file name to the split PDF by chapter target structure from our module number 80. In module number 80, you know what's happening, right? We're just basically saying here that, look, split PDF by chapter, and that's that. I'm just mapping the array in. Oh, actually, I've noticed I've made a little mistake here. PDF to image conversion. I actually want to add that in here. There you go. So that's it. There's nothing else to this. Just for the sake of the argument, let's run this one more time. And let's say I want to just extract the instructions. I don't know if this is going to work. We're going to try it. So this is running now. We're going to clear the split PDF by chapter, uncheck, recheck, and let's see what the automation is going to do. I will only do this part. Of course, bingo. Let's see. We should only have one document, which is perfect. And it should just be our sample collections. And there you go. That's perfect. It's the 4 pages about the instructions. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments below if you've enjoyed this one. If you have any questions, again, feel free to post them down in the comments. I try to take a look at every single comment and provide as much insight as possible and advice as possible. So yeah, that's it from me. See you in the next one.